All right, one of you turned a dead man's pickup into your personal parts department.
Yes, ma'am. I paid him to fix my father's truck, and he gutted it.
How much money are you asking for?
How much money are you asking for?
Mr. Boone, did you restore that truck or raid it?
I worked on it, ma'am. That truck was rough from the beginning, and she knew it.
No, that is fog. I asked whether you repaired her father's pickup for her son or whether you pulled pieces off it and used them elsewhere.
I repaired what could be repaired, ma'am, but it was rusted bad. The steering had play. The bed was weak, and I told her it was never going to be some shiny parade truck.
Memory project. That is the phrase men use when they want credit for breaking a promise gently. She says you took cash because you promised her boy a 16th birthday surprise. Then when the day came, the truck came back lighter than it left.
That is exactly what happened, ma'am. The bench seat was gone, both chrome mirrors were gone, the original steering wheel was gone. And he actually told me I should be thankful because he had saved the good pieces before anything got worse.
How did you know, Mr. Boone?
He lived 2 houses down from my father for years, ma'am. They bowled together on Thursdays, talked trucks like it was a religion, and after my father passed, Travis came to the house, hugged my son, and said, "When you're ready, we'll bring this old Chevy back."
That was after your father died?
Yes, ma'am. My father passed the year before, and my son Andre kept talking about how Grandpa always said that truck would be his one day if he learned to respect it. I'm a nurse. I don't know engines. I trusted the man who claimed he did.
What kind of truck?
A 1978 Chevy C10, ma'am. Faded red, long bed, old wood slats in the bed, bench seat split at the seam, but all the original pieces were there. It had been sitting under a cover in my driveway, and my father started it every few months before he got sick.
Mr. Boone, did you tell her you could have it ready by the boy's birthday?
I told her I'd try, ma'am. I never said I could perform miracles on a truck that had been sitting and rotting. She heard what she wanted to hear because she had this emotional plan in her head, and emotion doesn't fix rust or seized bolts.
Did you take money anyway?
Yes, ma'am, because work costs money. I had to tow it, clean out the fuel system, change fluids, mess with the ignition, buy a battery, and spend weekends on something that kept revealing more problems the deeper I got into it.
How much money did she give you?
Not $4,100, ma'am. More like maybe $2,600, $2,700 total, and even that was spread out over months. She keeps inflating numbers because she's upset about how it ended and because she wants me to pay for her disappointment.
No, ma'am, that's not true.
Stop. You'll get your turn, and you'll use it well. I do not need chorus singing. Ms. Carter, break down the money slowly and do not decorate it. Tell me each time you handed him cash, where you were standing, and what he said it was for.
The first $1,000 I gave him in my driveway, ma'am, right by the passenger side fender. He said that was for towing it to his pad, getting it running, and replacing whatever basic things had dried out from sitting. He patted the hood and told my son, "We're waking Grandpa's truck up."
Next.
900 2 weeks later in his garage. Ma'am. He said the brakes were bad all around. The master cylinder was mushy, and he didn't want my son climbing into something dangerous. Then 600 for interior cleanup and weather seals. Then 800 for paint prep and bed slats. Then another 800 because he said the steering column and front end parts were worse than he thought.
That adds up to $4,100. Mr. Boone?
She's bundling conversations together, ma'am. Some of those numbers were not for parts. One of those payments was money she owed me from before because I fixed her dryer and swapped out a water heater at her place after her father passed. She is rolling every dollar she ever handed me into this truck story.
How convenient. Which payment was for the dryer and the water heater?
The 600, ma'am, maybe part of the 800 too. It wasn't all truck. We had neighbor history. I did things for that house for a long time, and not everything was itemized because we were dealing with each other on trust.
You like that word, trust. Men with grease on their hands and vague memory often do. Ms. Carter, had you borrowed money from him or owed him for housework before this truck business began?
No, ma'am. He changed a dryer belt one time because my father asked him to, and my father paid him for that. The water heater was years earlier, and my father handled that too. Travis only started acting like those old favors were somehow floating around unpaid after I confronted him about the missing parts.
When did the truck leave your driveway? Did your son hear that?
The first Saturday in March, ma'am. He brought a trailer. My son helped pull the cover off, and Travis made a whole speech about preserving history. He said by July, Andre would be driving something that smelled like his grandfather and not like a plastic dealership. Yes, ma'am, and that made this worse. My boy counted the weeks like Christmas. Every time Travis told us, "Another weekend," my son believed him. I kept believing him too, because he knew exactly why that truck mattered, and because he never once said, "Stop, this isn't realistic," until after pieces started disappearing.
Mr. Boone, when did you first tell her the truck might not be finished? You just told me the steering wheel had slop. That is not the same thing as telling her it wouldn't be done. Answer the question I asked, not the one you wished I had asked.
Pretty early, ma'am. Once I got it on the lift and started poking around, it was obvious there was more rust than surface stuff. The cab corners were ugly, the bed mounts were tired, and the steering wheel had so much slop it felt like stirring soup. I told her maybe by late spring it was looking harder, ma'am. I don't remember the exact day. I remember saying we might need to adjust expectations because old vehicles hide problems, and she kept saying it only had to look good enough for a family surprise.
Only had to look good enough, Ms. Carter?
No, ma'am. I told him I didn't need a show truck. I never asked for perfect paint or some fancy rebuild. I wanted it safe, running, and original enough that my son would recognize his grandpa in it. The word original mattered because my father hated people swapping parts just to save a buck.
There it is, original. Did she say that to you?
She said she wanted the feel of her father, ma'am. That's emotional language, not mechanical language. When you work on something that old, sometimes you take off pieces to preserve them, sometimes you replace things temporarily, and sometimes people hear temporary and turn it into theft once they're unhappy.
Preserve them where? What exactly did you remove?
In my shop area, ma'am, some stuff I took off because it was too worn, some because I didn't want it getting ruined while I was moving other things around, and some because I was trying to figure out what could be saved and what needed replacement. In my shop area, ma'am, some stuff I took off because it was too worn, some because I didn't want it getting ruined while I was moving other things around, and some because I was trying to figure out what could be saved and what needed replacement.
And you told her before you removed all of that?
Not every piece in advance, ma'am. I was doing the work. Mechanics don't call and announce every bolt they touch. I assume she understood I was trying to save what I could while making the truck usable.
He never told me, ma'am. Not once.
I heard you. That interruption was earned. Mr. Boone, if the truck was for her son as a sentimental gift, why are you removing original pieces without even a basic conversation? Sentimental projects are not mystery boxes. People care what disappears.
Because I was under the hood and under the dash more than she was, ma'am. I was the one dealing with reality. She was dealing with feelings and a deadline. Those two things were not friends in that garage.
Reality and feelings can coexist. Adults manage both every day. Tell me about the birthday. Did you tell Mr. Boone that date repeatedly?
Andre turned 16 on July 22nd, ma'am. We were having family over for a cookout that Saturday. Travis knew that from the first talk in March. My father used to call that truck Big Red, and my plan was to put the keys in a little box and let my son walk outside and see it. Yes, ma'am, every month. Then every 2 weeks in July. He kept saying, "I'm close. I'm buttoning up details. I don't want to rush the finish," things like that. He never once said, "This truck is beyond saving." He said that only after I saw what was missing.
Mr. Boone, did you say, "I'm close"?
Probably, ma'am. Close can mean a lot of things. Close to getting it to move under its own power, close to sorting the front end, close to deciding whether it was worth continuing. She treated every mechanic sentence like it was a parade flyer.
No, close means close in ordinary English, and you knew exactly how she was hearing it because you enjoyed being the keeper of the surprise. Do not try to wriggle out of plain language now like an eel in work boots.
I wasn't wriggling, ma'am. I was trying to help her without crushing the dream too early. The more I dug in, the worse the truck looked, and by then I had already spent time and money. There was no clean way to tell her without a scene.
You are describing a scene now. What happened the week of the birthday? Both of you. I want the same week from both mouths, one at a time. Ms. Carter first.
On Monday, he told me he was finishing odds and ends, ma'am. On Wednesday, he said he wanted one more day because the steering felt floaty. On Friday night, he told my son to keep Saturday morning open. Then Saturday around 10, he rolled the truck to my curb, and it looked like somebody had robbed it of its own face.
Mr. Boone, did you bring it back under its own power?
That week I realized the steering box and linkage were still not where I wanted them, ma'am. The seat was out because I was cleaning the cab floor and checking mounts. The mirrors were off because they shook. I brought the truck back because she was pressuring me, not because I claimed it was complete. Partly, ma'am. I got it started and moved, but I had it on a trailer for most of the trip because I wasn't comfortable with distance. It was more of a delivery than a handoff. I expected to keep working once she calmed down.
That is interesting because she says the relationship ended there. Ms. Carter, what did he say when he dropped it off?
He hopped down like he was doing me some noble favor, ma'am, and said, "Here's the truth. This thing was always a donor, not a daily." I said, "Where is the seat?" He said, "Relax. I saved the good pieces." My son was standing there holding the gift box I'd made.
How old was your son that morning?
16, ma'am, and trying very hard not to look embarrassed for me. That was the part that made me see red. It was not only that he failed, it was that he spoke over the whole moment, like he had the right to rewrite what my father meant to us.
Mr. Boone, did you say it was always a donor?
I might have said something like that in frustration, ma'am, because by that point it was obvious the truck made more sense as a source of usable pieces than as a full restoration unless she wanted to spend serious money, and she definitely did not.
But earlier you told me you removed those original pieces to preserve them while you were making the truck usable. Now you are telling me it made more sense as a donor. Which story is taking the stand today?
Both can be true, ma'am. At first I tried to save it. Later I realized it was not practical. Projects evolve. A person working on an old vehicle is allowed to learn new information as rust keeps falling into his face.
Fine. Then tell me when the project evolved, month at least.
Late June, maybe early July, ma'am. Somewhere in there I knew it was getting ugly, but she was still talking about the birthday, and I was trying to see if I could patch together something drivable enough to make her happy without sinking my whole summer into it.
There. You just said patch together something drivable enough to make her happy. That is not donor language. That is delivery language. You do understand the difference, yes?
Yes, ma'am, but...
Good, then keep up. When you decided it was not worth finishing, why didn't you return every original part immediately and say, I cannot do this?
Because everything was spread out, ma'am. Some pieces were in my garage, some at my sister Alicia's barn because I moved things there when the county complained about too many vehicles on my lot, and some were still being cleaned or checked. It was not some sinister plot.
Your sister Alicia, is she your witness?
Yes, ma'am. She saw the truck, heard conversations, and knows I wasn't trying to cheat anybody. She knows Ms. Carter came over more than once crying and changing what she wanted, and she knows I did a lot of unpaid labor before this got ugly.
We'll get to your sister. First, I want to understand you. Did you ever put any of Ms. Carter's original parts on your own truck?
No, ma'am, not permanently. I may have test-fitted one thing, maybe leaned something up, maybe checked whether a mirror arm lined up, but I did not steal her father's truck parts and build myself a trophy out of them.
He did more than test fit, ma'am.
That answer opened the door all by itself. Ms. Carter, how do you know?
Because after he brought the truck back, I went to Alicia's property to ask for my parts, ma'am. She wasn't home, but her husband was in the yard. I could see Travis's blue pickup there, and through the window I saw my father's red and black bench seat inside it. Same cigarette burn on the passenger side from when my uncle dropped ash on it in 1997.
Did you confront him with that?
Yes, ma'am. He said I was seeing what I wanted to see and called me dramatic. Then he changed it and said he had only borrowed the seat because his own springs were coming through. Borrowed. Like my father's seat was a library book.
Mr. Boone?
That was temporary, ma'am, if it happened the way she says. I had the seat out, I needed to move my truck around, and there may have been a point where I set it in there so it wasn't getting rained on. You can't keep old upholstery in the open and expect it to survive.
So now we have gone from no to not permanently to if it happened. I hope your sister is more stable than you are because right now you're moving around like a shopping cart with one bad wheel.
I'm trying to explain mechanics to someone who's turning it into morality, ma'am. Old trucks are parts puzzles. Sometimes you move components around while you're sorting compatibility. That doesn't mean every temporary placement is some act of betrayal.
This is not a lecture hall, and you are not teaching a seminar called Excuses for Grown Men. Ms. Carter, aside from the missing parts, what work had he actually completed by July?
It would start, ma'am, but rough. The cab smelled like cleaner and old metal. The brake pedal still sank lower than it should have. There was no seat, so nobody was driving anywhere. He had sanded spots on the hood and doors, but it looked half-prepped, not restored. It was a promise with dust on it.
Did you ever tell him to stop before the birthday?
Never, ma'am. I kept asking if he needed more time, or if I should come get the truck and find somebody else. Every time he said some version of, "No, I've got too much in it now. Let me finish what I started." That is why I kept handing over money.
Mr. Boone, is that true? Did you say you had too much in it to stop?
I may have said I had time in it, ma'am. I don't know about those exact words. But yes, by then I had spent plenty of weekends on it, and I did not want her dragging it to somebody else who would take credit for anything that actually got fixed.
That answer tells me a lot. You were invested in the glory of being the rescuer, but not disciplined enough to handle the obligation that came with it. There is a word for that. It is not craftsmanship.
That's unfair, ma'am. I'm not some clown. I've built plenty of good running stuff over the years. This particular truck was sentimental, old, underfunded, and attached to a deadline. That is a difficult recipe even when people are reasonable.
You keep saying underfunded. Both of you answer this one after the other and keep it tight. What was the total budget you discussed at the beginning? Ms. Carter first.
He told me 3,000 to 4,000 would get it safe and respectable, ma'am. He said if I wanted glossy paint and every little cosmetic thing perfect, then it could climb. But for a family truck and a birthday reveal, he made it sound doable.
I said maybe that would get it moving and cleaned up, ma'am, not fully restored. She heard done. I said started. That distinction matters, especially with old metal. You can dump money into sentiment forever and still have something that leaves stains on your driveway.
Maybe if you had spent less energy shaping language afterward and more energy choosing it carefully beforehand, you would not be sitting here. Now tell me about the move to your sister's barn. When did that happen?
Sometime in June, ma'am. My place was crowded, and a county inspector had been snooping around because a neighbor complained about vehicles. Alicia has a barn with side space, so I moved the Chevy there to keep working without trouble and to keep Ms. Carter's truck under cover.
Did you ask Ms. Carter before moving it?
I told her it might have to go under better cover, ma'am. I don't remember whether I named Alicia's property specifically, but I did not hide the truck in a cave. It was a practical move.
He did not tell me where it was, ma'am. He just said it was off-site. That made my stomach drop, because suddenly my father's truck was somewhere I couldn't even picture. I had to hear from a neighbor that people had seen it near Alicia's place with the doors open.
Mr. Boone, why off-site? Why not say my sister's barn?
Because I didn't think it mattered, ma'am. It was being worked on. People get funny when you mention family property, like you're hiding assets or something. I was trying to avoid drama while I got things sorted.
People get funny when their dead father's truck vanishes to an unnamed location. That is not them being funny. That is you being thoughtless. And thoughtless is the cousin of untrustworthy when money is involved.
I wasn't untrustworthy, ma'am. I just did not realize every decision would be interpreted through grief and suspicion. I was trying to work, and she was emotionally attached to every scratch because the truck belonged to a man she misses.
Of course she misses him. He's dead. That is not some mysterious feminine overreaction. That is the central fact of your arrangement. The sentimental value was not hidden in the glove box. It was the whole reason this project existed.
Thank you, ma'am. That's exactly it. If he had said in April, "I'm in over my head," I would have cried, collected the truck, and figured something else out. What I cannot forgive is him smiling in my son's face while he was already taking pieces that made the truck my father's.
Did you and Mr. Boone have any personal falling out unrelated to the truck?
Only after I started pressing him harder in July, ma'am. And I think that matters. He got prickly when I stopped treating him like some favor-doing neighbor and started asking direct questions. Then, when he saw me out with a man from work, suddenly he started making little comments about me being too busy for my own project.
Mr. Boone?
That has nothing to do with this, ma'am. I am not some jealous teenager. She can date whoever she wants. Yes, I thought it was rich that she suddenly had all this energy to question me while finding time for dinner dates, but that didn't change the truck.
Did you ever date Ms. Carter?
No, ma'am. We flirted a little after her father passed. We had a couple evenings sitting on the porch talking. That's it. I helped her because of her father and because I cared about the family. Nothing romantic worth putting in neon.
He wanted more than I did, ma'am. I kept it neighborly. Once I made that clear, the truck started taking longer and his tone changed. He went from, "Our boy's gonna love this," to, "You don't appreciate the work." And then suddenly, original parts were disappearing into temporary places.
He said, our boy?
More than once, ma'am. It made me uncomfortable, but I brushed it off because I was trying not to create a problem in the middle of a project that meant so much to my son. Looking back, that was foolish. I confused enthusiasm with goodwill, and there is a difference.
There is indeed. Men sometimes borrow family language when they want the emotional credit of a role they have not earned. Then when responsibility shows up, suddenly everything is rust, budget, and misunderstanding.
That's a nasty way to put it, ma'am. I cared. That's true. But caring doesn't mean I sabotaged a truck because she wouldn't hold my hand. I was busting my knuckles on that thing while she was building a whole psychological novel around every delay.
No one asked you to hold anyone's hand. They asked you not to bolt a dead man's seat into your own truck. We will return to that because it is my favorite part of your story so far.
It was not bolted in for keeps, ma'am. It was there briefly, if at all. People keep acting like I drove around town blowing kisses from some stolen throne. That is not what happened.
The poetry is charming. The facts are still waiting. Ms. Carter, after the birthday disaster, what did you ask for exactly?
I asked for every original part back, every dollar I had handed him for things he did not complete, and an honest answer, ma'am. Instead, I got defensiveness, little half-apologies, and a speech about how I was lucky he had protected anything, because my father's truck was a sinking ship.
Did he return anything?
One mirror, ma'am. Just one, not the pair. He handed me one mirror arm wrapped in an old towel, like that was supposed to make me grateful. The seat did not come back then. The steering wheel did not come back then. And he acted like I was unreasonable for wanting the truck whole again.
Mr. Boone, why one mirror?
Because one was right there when she came over making accusations, ma'am. The other one was mixed in with parts. I wasn't refusing to return things. I was trying to avoid a screaming match while I sorted what belonged with what. She was showing up hot and saying ugly things.
What ugly things?
That I used her father's truck to patch my own, ma'am. That I was jealous. That I liked playing hero in front of her son. Those are ugly things to say to a man who gave up weekends for months and still got told he was not doing enough.
Sometimes ugly things are also accurate things. Do not confuse tone with falsity. Let's talk about your own blue truck. What is it?
1980 Chevy, ma'am. Square body, blue, daily-ish driver, nothing fancy. I've owned it years. It's been pieced together here and there like most old work trucks. That doesn't make every nearby part transferable without permission before anybody starts.
But it does make transfer tempting.
Sure, ma'am. In theory, old truck people compare fitment all the time. That's how you solve problems. But temptation and theft are not the same. A man can line something up, test a bracket, even borrow a seat while moving things without becoming the villain of a memorial drama.
Borrow a seat. There it is again. I am glad you keep feeding me. How long was the seat in your truck?
I don't know exactly, ma'am. A little while, maybe. My own seat had springs poking through and I was moving equipment. It was not some permanent swap. I was going to return it once I figured out whether her original seat frame was even salvageable.
So the answer to my earlier question was yes.
Temporarily, ma'am, yes, but not with malicious intent.
Malicious intent is not required when common sense already packed a suitcase and left the room. You took the sentimental centerpiece of a dead man's truck and used it because your backside wanted fewer springs. That is grotesquely selfish.
That's exactly how it felt, ma'am. The seat was where my father drank coffee at dawn, and where my son sat as a little boy pretending to steer. He reduced it to upholstery inventory because it was convenient for him. That's why I stopped believing anything else he said.
And the steering wheel?
I had it hanging in the shop, ma'am. That one never went in my truck. It was cracked and I was comparing spline fit on a replacement, same with trim pieces. Old vehicles require mix and match thinking. That is not scandal. That is Tuesday.
Tuesday for whom? Not for the woman paying you under the belief that originality mattered. We are circling the same tree now and I can already see your fingerprints on the bark. Let's bring in your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
You are Mr. Boone's sister?
Yes, ma'am. Younger sister. My husband and I have a small property with a barn, and Travis used one side for a while because he was getting heat at his place about vehicles. The red Chevy was there for several weeks, maybe more than a month.
You understand you are under oath and family loyalty does not improve your position if you try to polish nonsense until it shines. What did you personally see and hear?
I saw Travis working on the truck, ma'am. I heard Ms. Carter come by twice. One time she was calm, and one time she was upset. I heard her say she just wanted it safe enough for her son and wanted the truck to still feel like her dad. I also heard Travis say he was spending more time on it than he expected.
Did you hear him promise the birthday?
I heard him mention a birthday deadline more than once, ma'am. I can't swear to the first conversation in March because I wasn't there, but by June it was definitely being talked about like that date mattered. He would say things like, "I'm trying to make the birthday," or "I'm running out of runway."
Good. Did you see any of Ms. Carter's original parts in your brother's blue truck?
The seat, yes, ma'am, for a while. I saw the red and black bench inside his blue Chevy. I asked why he had it there because it looked old and smelled like old foam. He said his own seat was killing his back and he was only using it till he finished cleaning the other cab out.
That's what I said.
Quiet. She is not your echo. Go on.
I also saw at least one mirror on a shelf, ma'am. And I remember him bringing in a steering wheel and saying he was trying to save what mattered. But if I'm being honest, it did not look to me like he was keeping all of it grouped neatly for return. It looked like project sprawl.
Project sprawl. That is the first honest phrase I've heard from your side in 10 minutes. Did Ms. Carter know the seat was in your brother's truck?
Not from me directly, ma'am. I didn't call her. But when she came by after the birthday and saw the blue truck parked there, I think she could tell. The seat was visible through the side glass and she froze. That's when everything got tense fast.
Did your brother ever say why he kept working after he knew he would miss the deadline?
He said he didn't want to hand it back half done and get blamed either way, ma'am. He also said Miss Carter was acting like he owed her perfection on a budget. And once, when he was annoyed, he said she only started treating him like the hired help after she got a new man around.
Ah, there it is again.
That was frustration, ma'am, not motive.
I will decide motive. You can decide whether to keep digging. Ms. Boone, did you ever hear your brother say the truck was only a donor from the beginning?
No, ma'am, not from the beginning. Early on, he talked like he was bringing it back. Later, maybe late June or July, he got darker about it and said it might only make sense for parts if Monique didn't want to spend more. But that was later, not at first.
That matters. Very much. Did you hear Ms. Carter ever tell him he could use parts on his own truck?
No, ma'am, I never heard that. I heard her say she trusted him and wanted the truck to stay true to her father. I never heard, "Take whatever you want," or anything like that. If she said it privately, I didn't hear it.
Mr. Boone, your own sister has just removed most of the cushions from your story. She says the birthday was real, the donor language was late, the seat was in your truck, and permission to use original parts was never heard. Tell me why I should treat you as more credible than the witness you brought.
Because Alicia didn't live in the project with me, ma'am. She saw snapshots. She didn't see the hours of rust, seized hardware, busted mounts, and changed expectations. And yes, I used the seat briefly. That was stupid optics. I admit that. But stupid optics aren't the same as cheating someone out of thousands.
They are not optics when the item belongs to someone else and carries sentimental value you were paid to preserve. They are facts wearing work gloves. Ms. Boone, did your brother ever say he would return the seat after his own was fixed?
Yes, ma'am. He said it wasn't staying there forever, but he also said, and I remember this because it struck me, at least someone's getting use out of it. That bothered me. It sounded dismissive. It didn't sound like a man carefully protecting a grieving family's keepsake.
There it is. Thank you. You may stay. I'm not finished with you yet. Mr. Boone, at least someone's getting use out of it. Did you say that?
Maybe in anger, ma'am. After hearing I was suddenly a thief and a liar, yes, I might have said something sharp. People say ugly things when they feel unappreciated. That doesn't mean I set out to exploit her father's memory.
No, it means your resentment arrived before your honesty did. That is usually when trouble begins. Ms. Carter, when did you first suspect this had turned from incompetence into something more personal?
When his language changed, ma'am. Early on, he'd say, "your son," and "your dad's truck." By July, he started saying, "all this pressure," and "your little deadline," like I had invented the meaning after the fact. Then he looked at me one evening and said, "Some people forget who was there first." That chilled me.
Mr. Boone, did you say that?
Maybe something like that, ma'am. Not as some threat, more like a reminder that I had been helping this family a long time and suddenly I was being spoken to like a day laborer who needed a supervisor standing over him.
You were being spoken to like a person who had taken money to do a job. There is nothing insulting about that, unless the real arrangement in your head was emotional credit with looser accountability, in which case I understand why adulthood felt rude.
I still did work, ma'am. Everybody keeps skipping over that. The truck was not a corpse when I was done. It started, it moved. I cleaned years of mess out of it. I didn't leave her with exactly what she started with, and that has value.
That is true. You did something. The question is how much value your something had once we subtract the chaos and the self-help harvesting. Ms. Carter, what was returned later, if anything, after the birthday?
A week and a half later, he brought back the seat, ma'am. Not because he wanted to, because I kept demanding it, and because Alicia's husband told him he should stop being stubborn. The seat came back dirtier than before, with fresh wear on one side. The steering wheel came later. One mirror never did.
Mr. Boone, is that accurate?
Mostly, ma'am. The seat came back, the steering wheel came back, the second mirror. I honestly think it got bent or lost in the shuffle between moving things from my place to Alicia's and back. I wasn't trying to keep one lonely mirror like a pirate trophy.
No, just careless with somebody else's history while billing yourself as its protector. Different flavor, same indigestion. Ms. Boone, did the seat come back because your husband intervened?
My husband told Travis he was making it worse, ma'am. He said even if Travis felt unappreciated, he needed to get the family's parts back fast and stop talking around it. So yes, I'd say that pushed things. Travis was mad and felt accused, and he dug in.
That sounds right. Pride is expensive when attached to old trucks and middle-aged men. Mr. Boone, let's get to the money. Do you deny receiving the first $1,000?
No, ma'am, I got 1,000 at the start. Tow, battery, fluids, fuel system, all of that. That part is real.
Do you deny the $900 after that?
I don't deny getting another payment around then, ma'am. It may have been $900. I won't fight that hard. I remember brake parts, lines, and a lot of time under it. So yes, a second payment happened.